All right, welcome back. We are WEBD6201 in the winter 2021 semester. That's client-side scripting. And we're continuing with our single page applications with Ajax topic. And this is part 2 of our broadcast this week. And last day, what we had, just to go back to our plan. So if I look at what we had last day, we had this, where we started thinking about how to do some routing, and we did the routing up here. We kind of fixed the problem with the hashtag at the end, and that's what we did. And today we're going to be talking about routing, how to do routing client side, right? So, and I'll talk about what routing is in a second. But before we get there, what I want to talk about is a couple changes just to the schedule and so on. So again, Lab 2 was supposed to be due this Friday, but I've moved it to Sunday to give you a couple days. I guess I've had one request to do that, and I think that's good enough. I'm okay with Sunday. It'll give you a couple of days to do what you have to do. And then I'm going to position Lab 3 to be due on Sunday of week 9 as well. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So just an announcement there. Lab 3, I'm still working on it. I'm just going to finish off our in-class exercise today, and that'll be where Lab 3 is based on. So I need a little bit more time to put it together. What I will do is I'm going to put a little video together just for Lab 3 and post it later today, right? So you'll have a chance to watch the requirements for Lab 3, and the document will be posted. Again, it'll be due a couple weeks out, and it'll be based on Ajax and how to kind of convert a page to a single page application. I've already got the structure for it. I just want to make sure I finalize all the details with it, and that's why I need a little bit more time to do that, especially after what we do today. Okay, so it's going to be dependent on how far we get. That's why I need to wait a little long. All right, so that is some announcements about what we're doing. Let's move on with the structure. So again, where last we left off with a structure where we had this global active link thing, and I was really unhappy with it. And I told you guys that. I said, global, that's going to be something that's temporary. But what we've got so far is where we go to our page. So if I go to our page right now, and let's go here as an example. And if you notice, if I go to any of these pages, this is good. But what if, I had a client, right, that comes back to my page. Let's say, for example, I'm here, right? And then I have bookmarked my page, and I want to go to the services page. I put that in, services, and press enter. Well, it doesn't go there, right? Because this isn't a real link. This is a faux link, like a pseudo link, if you will, right? I want to make this a real link, this right here, something that looks like this. And how do I do that? And what about if I put some other weird thing like this, like A, B, C, D, E, F, something weird? That shouldn't compute, right? That shouldn't take me to a link, right? It should fail, this link here, right? Some kind of link like this should just actually not work, right? So it should give me a 404 page or something like that. So I need to make a custom 404 page that basically says 404 file not found, kind of stuff, or page not found. Maybe you've forgotten the page. Oops, some nice little message here that says page not found. Okay, so I want to be able to make a custom 404 page, as well as create routing. And the routing table that I want to make, and I want to think about what a routing table is. It will intercept anything that I put up here on the top, right? And it'll give me the link that I want. It'll inject the content that I want in here. And this will also help me with security. It'll help me with a lot of things, right? Where I do the kind of the routing at the top. So that's where I want to go today, making a routing table and redirection for my page, because this will help me with my single page application structure. All right, so let's go with this. So what I need then is in my scripts folder, let's make a new file, and we'll call it router.js. Okay, so router.js. And what I want with my router.js is I want to make it into something that, again, resembles what we've seen before. So for now, we're not making a class. We're just keeping it simple. I want to move that active link away from globals completely, and I want to put it inside my router. So let's get rid of this. So first I'll start with this. So I'll cut this out and I go to my router, put it up here. Okay. And we can get rid of the globals file because I don't want to use globals. Globals was temporary, like I said. It was not something I wanted. And so my index.html here, let's get rid of globals. We're not going to do globals anymore, right? This is just to make things going. Now, remember I said that there's two parts that I can put JavaScript files. I can put it in the head of my document. I can put it in here too, before the bottom. But normally we put it in the head of our document or in the bottom of our document, like just before the body tag. And you can see like we have a lot of stuff just before the body tag. I want to put, again, something in the head of my document underneath my, my section up here. I'm going to make a little note. So it's going to be, this is our, kind of our preloading scripts that kind of run before my page loads. Kind of scripts that run that preload. So we'll call them preload. Okay. And the one that I want to run is it's going to be /scripts/router. So my router is going to basically act like an interceptor. It's going to come back here, load my CSS and so on. And then the router is going to decide what I'm going to inject in here. Okay, because that makes more sense, right? Instead of us going all the way down here, loading the page content, then doing something, the page content needs to be loaded for me to inject it. I mean, I need these pieces right here. If I don't have these pieces, I can't really do much, theoretically. Reality-wise, I could inject these too, right? I could inject everything and not have anything here, like at all, right? I could inject everything in this step, okay? Because I have a body tag eventually, and then I'll just inject it in the body tag. But that's a lot of work, right? So I'm going to just stick with this for now. And I'm going to go into my router and I want to start thinking about it. So I got my active link. That's going to definitely be there, right? And then I want to start thinking about my routing table and what that looks like. I don't want it to be out in the wild like this. The active link is one thing. I need to have that available to me all the time, right? And there's a couple of ways we can do that. I could make it a class, and I think that might be a good thing to do. Let's think about what this looks like. And I always like to look at TypeScript for this to get some help. So here's typescriptlang.org. Remember this? We can go to our playground, and I can start thinking about what my class is going to look like, okay? This routing class that I want to make. I want to put it in my and again, let's configure TypeScript here, just so that way we can do this. I'm going to go to tsconfig in here. So again, I'm in Playground on typescriptlang.org. I went to Playground. We've done this before. And all I want to do is uncheck all of these for the most part. Okay, always strict. I definitely want to have that in there. That's it. The rest of these strict checks I can undo. And I don't care about this stuff right now. No experimental stuff. Awesome. All right, and up here where it says target is ES 2017. That's fine. Let's make it ES 2020, so that way we have the regular way. We're not going to use React. And the module structure that we're going to use is CommonJS. Okay, so that's important. This is the starting setup for things. Okay, now the reason why I'm doing this is when we convert, we're going to convert to something that looks like this from this, right? And so we're going to write it in TypeScript. And by the way, there's an underlying motive here. I'm teaching you TypeScript at the same time, kind of, right? Because you've seen TypeScript a bunch of times. Then the next time when we get to TypeScript later on, eventually you'll understand what this whole thing is. Okay, so we don't want to make a person class. This is kind of simple. And my namespace, if I'm going to have a namespace here at all, right, as an example, it's going to be in my core namespace, right? So namespace would be core, because this is something we're adding in, right? In my core namespace, what I want to have is a new class called router. Okay, so there's my router class. And let's think about the stuff that's going to be in my router class when I create my router. Okay, so I need to have a couple of things. I'm just going to make a blank constructor right now when we make our class. I need something called a routing table. And my routing table is going to have and by the way, when I put export in front of the class router here, it does this nice little iffy for me right here, right? I want to have a couple things. I want to have the active link, right? Now I could make this public. So if I said something like public active link, right? If I did this and I declared it as a string, right? And notice that there's nothing that's going on here. That's what I want. I want my link to be public, right? My active link to be public, but that's not the way we want to do it. We want to do a private instance variables. So these will be the kind of our instance variables. Again, we're doing some, we're doing some object-oriented programming here, and we want to have some public properties. So that's like getters and setters. Okay. And then we want to have our constructor functions, followed by some private methods, maybe, and some public methods. That is our structure of our code, okay? And that's how it would work for us. That's how it would kind of work out. Private methods and public methods. Let me put that in there, okay, with P's. All right, cool. So now let's think about the instance variables then. I need an instance variable as an example, and it's going to be private, and I want to call this private instance variable active link, right? So we're going to make it, M underscore. We're going to use that old structure, M underscore active link is going to be a string, right? That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to declare it as a string, okay? And then in my public properties, when we declare public properties, we need a get active link, right? And when we do a get active link, we're going to return a type, right, as an example, which is going to be a string. And in the return type, when we think about what this looks like, we're going to return this .m underscore active link. Okay, so that is the getter. I also want to be able to set my active link, set active link, and it's going to be the new link, whatever that's going to be. And in my setter, I want to say that this dot m underscore active link is equal to link, whatever that is, whatever the link is that we pass in. Okay, so that is going to be our getter and setter for our active link now. So active link will be actually a class variable, right? As opposed to something that's in the wild, like a globe. Okay. Nice. We also want a routing table. So again, in my private instance table member, I want to make a private, and I want to make it a string, an array of strings. All right, so this will be something called m underscore routing table, which will be a string array. All right, that's what I want it to be. Okay, a string array, an array of strings. Okay, so that's what a string array is. And I want to be able to add a string to the routing table, and I want to be able to maybe remove a string from the routing table as well. So add and remove functionality, right? Well, we have that information, right? We have the ability for us to add and remove stuff, right? If I look at strings, and I say append, right, in, let's say, for example, in something like JavaScript, right, then there is a, sorry, not a string append. I want a array append in JavaScript. Then there is this push method. So append would be something that we want to do in other languages. But let's suppose I have this string, banana, orange, apple, mango. Then I can say fruits.push, and I can push a new string on there, and that will be the new way we add to the array, right? So I want to be able to add to the array. Okay. So our routing table then, our routing table will be the same. It'll be the ability for us to add to the array. We can do it push. And if I want to remove something, there is pop. And I can, but what pop does is it removes the last member of the array. If I want to search for something, right, you know, and I can look for it with index of. So I can say find the index of apple, right? So I want to find the index of apple, and if I want to remove that, you know, one part as an example of the array, so think about what I want to do here. So pop, it pops. There is no thing, you know, method that I can remove, right? So let's take a look at some other methods here that we can see. What other methods can we use to remove it? Right. So index of will definitely tell us if something does exist or not. And reduce, what it does is it subtracts numbers in the array starting from the beginning. So that's what reduce does. So that's not what we want. Shift removes the first element of the array. Slice, right, selects elements from the array from, let's say, 1 to whatever, right? Splice adds items to the array. That's what splice does, right? So how do I remove an element? How do I do that? How do I remove an element from an array? So remember we said all these things, concat and everything else. What do I do? Do you guys remember how to do it in JavaScript? So let's just look it up. So I want to remove element of an array in JavaScript. How do I do it? And it says JavaScript array methods. We're back to array methods again, popping and pushing, right? And shifting elements around, right? Unshift removes the other one. We can change, and deleting elements, we can just say deletes and then the number, right? Whatever that fruit is. So whatever in this particular case the fruits are, we have the index of, we can use the delete function to do that, okay? And it says, hey, using delete may leave undefined holes in the array, right? Use pop and shift instead, right? So here's something to consider. Arrays in JavaScript are a little different than other places, right? It's not like I have a list that I can deal with as an example, or a vector like we've done in C++, right? So splice, if I'm going to do something, it's almost like I'm going to remake the array again. Like that's what I kind of want to do. So, but going back to our code here for a second, let's go back because we're thinking about stuff, how to create our router. We know we have our active link. We know we have our routing table that we're going to have an array of. And I want to make some public methods to add to the routing table. So I'm going to say something like, I'm going to have a router. So router.add, and there might be an add route, right? So something like that. So add, we'll call it add route. And this will be public. So you're going to put the public keyword in front so we can expose it out here. Add route will be the new route, whatever that's going to be, which is a string. Okay. And what we're going to just do, it's just going to encapsulate our push method. So it's going to say M underscore. So we're going to push onto the, and I don't want to expose the routing table by itself, right? I don't want to expose the routing table. I'm not going to let you actually access it directly. We can print it, we can remove from it, but we're not going to get access to it. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be kind of protected, if you will, right? So we're going to say this dot M underscore routing table dot push, and I want to push that element onto the array, which is going to be the route. Okay. So add route. We also want the ability for us to find a route. So public find route, and whatever the route is. Again, I'm encapsulating this, guys. By the way, we can also, in TypeScript, we can also say what this returns. This is going to return void. Okay, and so is this. And find route will be index of, right? So I want to say, and now if this is going to return something, if it's found, then we need it to return a Boolean, right? So Boolean, right? And if it returns true, then it is found. If not, as an example, then we're good. So find route, and there's two ways to do this. Do I want to find the route and return a number, right? Or do I want to return a Boolean, which is false? So there's a couple ways to do this. I could also make it return a number, right? Where the number is going to be a -1. So that's like kind of like index of, right? Where it's found or not. But all I'm doing is hiding the regular, the way it's going to work here. Instead of using M routing table push, I'm just going to use add route, find route. Find route is going to be this dot M underscore routing table dot index of, and then the route, right? So whatever that route is. And basically what this is going to be is I'm going to return this out. I'm going to return this. And what this is going to do is going to provide a number. It's going to basically look at the array of strings. That's what this is, an array of strings. It's going to look at the array of strings, and it's going to return a number. And the number is either going to be the index of where the route is found, or it's going to be -1. So this is found right. And if it's route -1, that means that the route hasn't been found. But we're just hiding it with these methods. Okay. Do I need these methods? You might say no, but it'll make it look nice. Okay, when we're done. That's the way it's going to be done. Also, my constructor, I have to instantiate an object of type router, right, from the first time. So when I make it the first time, if I do it this way, then my router is actually going to be an object I have to instantiate. So I got to think about how I'm going to do this class later. All right, how about remove route? So we talked about adding a route, and I want to basically do a remove route. So remove route. Now remember, like, I have route everywhere. Router.route, right? Router.activeLink, as an example. And we might want to just make these add, find, and remove, because it is router.add, router.find, right? Router.remove, because we're saying route all the time, route. So remove a route, which is a string type, and it's going to, again, indicate a number where if the route is found, then it's going to say everything is great, right? And it's just like if we and we can do a number, or we can do a Boolean, or some kind of thing, but we need to return something to say that things are good, right? The things that it's been removed, right? So either a number or a Boolean. We have to think about this for a second, because this is where it's going to be different. Where what we want to do is we're going to say, okay, so I want to find the route if, and we'll say this dot find, the route that we're going to use, right? So whatever the route is, if this dot find is greater than -1, so we found the route, only then do we want to remove it. Now we want to remove it by splicing it, right? Because if I say that, it's almost like I want to make my array again. When I go through it, I want to take that route and I want to make an array, you know, without I can delete the route. If I say something like delete, right? I can delete the route that's in there. So what I can delete that particular route wherever the index is of this, right? This find route. Okay, because that's what I want to do. That's going to be the index, right? Because that's going to return find route is going to do it. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to say that I'm going to delete from m underscore routing table. And I just have to put this m underscore routing table. Pop index of routes. Does that work? Let's see. Pop. Are you sure, Tom? You tried that before? Pop index of route. I mean, it gives you the ability to do it. But pop definitely what it does is if I say pop, right? Then let me just do this for a second. If I go pop, then don't worry about delete. If I say this, hold on a second. If I go pop, pop does it kind of it returns a string. That's what it does. Removes the last element from the array and returns it if the array is empty, undefined is unreturned, and the array is not modified. So what it's going to actually do is return this thing, right? So it's probably like chaining, like you said, but then what we might want to do instead is what we said, which is if I want to, instead of modifying the array directly, right, then what I'm thinking about is we're going to make it so that we reduce it. So if I say something like this dot m underscore routing table, and if I say splice, right, splice gives me a start number and a and an ending number, right? So the zero base location of array which to start removing elements. So that is the start, right? Where I want to start removing elements. So I want to start where it's going to be where I've got the index. So it's going to be this dot find route, right? So whatever, I know that I found it, it exists, and I want to get that index. That's the starting point. And then it says the number of elements to remove. Well, I want to remove one element, right, from that route. And it removes the elements from array, and if necessary, inserts new elements in their place, returning the deleted elements, right, if I want to return to the deleted elements. So this will do it exactly. So it'll splice the array, right, as an example, start, and then how much I'm going to delete is the number that I'm going to delete. How many I'm start number, whatever that is, and delete count. And it returns, look what it returns, a string array. That's what it returns back. So it removes elements and returns that string array. That's what splice returns, another string array. And what we want to say is that this dot m underscore routing table we're modifying is equal to this. Okay, so that is the new routing table. And if everything goes well, what we want to do is return true. So the operation went well. Otherwise, if we don't find anything, we can return false. So this actually modifies the table and recreates it. And so what this does is it removes empty elements and all that kind of stuff from the array. Okay. That's what remove does. So we have add, find, and remove from the routing table. We need these things in order for us to do any kind of routing. Okay. Okay, cool. So we have the ability for us to use this thing, and this is what it's going to look like in its initial form. We don't have any private methods. Sorry, let's see what we do here. Remove route const is equal to index. Public remove route string, Boolean. Okay, right. Const index this defined route. Okay, so that means on this m underscore splice index return true, else return false. Yeah, the only thing that I would say is I would Nick, I'd want to, because that's almost the same as what I'm doing here. Yes. The only thing that I would say is when you splice, you return a string array, right? And I want to take that new string array, right, that I want to removes elements, and then it returns an array containing the elements that were deleted. If I do this, that's only going to return the elements that were deleted, right? And so this is wrong. Sorry. What I want to do is just this. Yeah. And this will remove everything, right? So splice it and remove the element. And this is better. Splicing is better than deleting. If I delete, it's going to leave holes like 0, 1, 2, 3. And this won't leave any holes, but it'll actually find, if I find it, great. If I don't find it, it'll say false. And this is kind of what I would do, similar to what you just did. But you just made it so there's an extra index. And that's fine. Yeah. All right, so that is my that's my structure right now, and I want to use it. So let's without further ado, because we're going to run late, I want to grab all of this, and I want to grab this, and now it says core here, and we're going to talk about this in a second. But I want to grab all of this part and go back to our actual code here and put it in right here. Okay. So that's what we did. We just grabbed it. We just made it online, and we grabbed the actual JavaScript code, and we're going to put it in here. And I'm just going to restructure it so it looks nice. And then we'll put this up on GitHub for you in a second, so you have it. Okay. And we need to test it, of course, because making it and testing it, that's like two different things, right? So, and there we go. So this is what it's going to look like right now. All right. One thing we have is core, and core doesn't exist yet. We have something in our index.html that has our namespace down here, right? And I'm not going to put my namespace down here anymore because guess what? It needs to load before everything else does. So I'm going to move my namespace from the bottom all the way up here to preloading. So when the page loads, I'm already going to have my namespace. If I don't do that, then router won't have its namespace and nothing else will have their namespaces. So you see, I'm kind of I'm preloading stuff up here. Think about this, a preloading step where I'm loading stuff up that I can do things with up here. Okay, let's just make that, patch that hole, save. And now let's see what the router, how that router will work, right? So one thing is I declared my router. So up here in my router.js, I made a class called router. I added it to the core, right? My core folder. And now what I need to do is up until about here, you know, as an example, I made my core router, right? But it hasn't been really created. I've just made my class. Remember, there's no object of type router, right? And active link is up here. I can get rid of this now because my active link is something that I want to have in my router, right? So my router needs to be created. And I want to make it so that it is publicly available after the class is done, right? So again, this would be my new global, if you think about it, for now. And I wanted something that is going to be available everywhere. So what I want to say is that let router, right, my new router, equal to a new router. And it's going to be core.router, right? Because core.router is something that we just created. So core is the namespace, router is the route, as an example. And then what I can say is that let my router.activeLink, right, is how I'm going to activate it. right? Because router.activeLink is the one that is going to be around. All right, that's how I'm going to activate the active link now. Okay, so I'm just putting it here for now. There's other solutions here, but I'm putting it in the top of our page. We have a couple things in different orders. So one, the namespace is here, like core, right? And we need to put that up here because I want core to be active everywhere. The core namespace, right? It's going to be encapsulation, but we can get everything through core. Router is my new class, router, and the router, I also want to make it part of my global namespace where I instantiate. As soon as my page starts, I start off my router, okay? Now, this is where we're going to get into a bit of challenge, right? Because I'm going to, at the top of my page, right, as an example, I want to create a routing table for this, right? So let's make the routing table now. So I'm going to say that I want to say router.add, and I want to add in all the elements of my routing table, right? So one thing that we have is we don't really have an ability here to add a route. We don't want to add things one by one. Sometimes I want to just add a big routing table because I have it, and it's much easier than just adding one route at a time. If I want to add a route later on, okay, right, I can add and remove routes dynamically, but there must be a way. One thing we missed is there must be a way here that I can add a whole routing table if I want. So how do I do that? Let's go back to TypeScript as an example to help us. So I want to add a routing table. So we're going to say router add table instead of just add. So we'll put it under here. I'm putting it in order, by the way. I'm not sure if you noticed this, but add table. And then the router table is going to be the routing table, whatever that's going to be, which is a string array. I want to be able to do this too. Okay. So how will this work? This will replace my routing table in place. It's destructive, right? So I'm going to say that this dot m underscore routing table is going to equal to this new routing table, whatever the new routing table is. It's a destructive function that'll destroy the routing table and replace it with whatever I have. Okay. I'm not going to add the whole routing table to the existing one. That would be like a concatenate equivalent, right? I'm just going to replace it, okay? Add route adds a route to the routing table, and I can comment all these too later on. All right, so that's what this is going to do for now. And again, we can improve on this later when we think about it. I just want to grab this little function here. That's the one thing I didn't grab, but I wanted to show you this to see, to show you how it works, right? And again, I'm going to go here and add that in. So add table. So then what I can do here is I can say router.add table. And then what I want is whatever the routing table is going to be this. Okay. And so what I want to do is I want to make a routing table, and I want to think what it looks like. It's going to look like slash. And actually, before I get here, before I tell you how this works, let me show you how it works. So a couple things to note, right? In my app.js, let's do this. In my load header area, I'm going to do a console log, and I want to do a location.pathname. Okay, so location.pathname is going to show us, where what our path is currently on the kind of the page. And remember also that further down, when we do our routing, so far we do this. Active link is equal to home, but now active link does not exist, right? What we want instead is to go to the router dot active link, which is this one, right? So active link, router dot active link, and we're going to say router dot active link here, right? Because router is the container now, right? Router dot active link. So we have to modify some of these, or else it's not going to work anymore because we've moved things around. We've made some changes, and for now, this is what we're going to do. And the same thing goes with anywhere else we use active link up here. So for example, in our thing, we're going to say router.active link. And same thing here. And same thing here. And same thing here. Okay, so this is where all those changes come into place. I'm not sure I missed anything anywhere, but this is the only place I've added it so far. All right, so let's see what this does as is. Does it work the way it's supposed to, like how it worked before, or do we have errors? So can I still do this? You know, can I still route? And what error am I getting? Because I'm getting an error, right? So it says active link is not defined, reference error on app.js32. Okay, so that is, I missed one. Remove class. Sorry. And I think we're good. Okay, it says reference error active link is not defined on console log. And let's try it again. And this is how it should work. So this is your page as it is right now. All I've done is you added the router, and what it's doing is it's showing you the links. Look, take a look at the about, projects, and so on, right? That's what it's giving you, right? And if I go back to this, then notice that what I get is this slash right here. But if I click on this, then I get about, slash about. If I actually typed in slash about, then you notice that my path name becomes slash about, right? That's my path name. It's not about, that is like what I'm getting out when I'm printing out the active link, right? So again, this active link is printing out the about. So let's get rid of that. I don't need that inside of my load header, right? But here at the top where I say location.pathname, location.pathname is whatever's in the path. So if I say something like this, notice if I just go to the regular path, localhost 3000, I'm going to get this slash. Slash means that is the main route. By the way, this is going to help us later on when we use in Node.js, starting probably next week. Okay. But if I put in a route, I want to be able to, for my clients or my customers or me, I want to be able to go to say something like, I want to see my projects page and type it in and go to projects. Right now, it doesn't do that. It just doesn't, it does nothing, right? But I've got this. So this is what my route is going to look like, okay? So on that then, if I go back to my router, right, and I want to make my routing table, let's add it in. So we'll say router.add table. And in add table, I'm going to have a new table. So it's going to be a new string array. And the first one is going to be slash. And then the next one is going to be home, right? Let's think about this. About. I want to be able to go to all these ones, right? Services. And then contact list, right? Projects. Let me just make sure I put everything properly because I'm probably missing some stuff here like this. Projects, register, right? Login, and maybe edit. I'm thinking. I think that covers all of them. Okay, that's in the routing table. And let's just make it so we can see all this underneath each other. So I'm just going to do something that looks like this. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to make it so that you can see everything like so on top of each other. Just so that's a little clearer what I'm doing. Okay. So that is how I'm adding to my routing table. I'm adding an array, right, of strings. And that array of strings is going to be my routing table. One thing to be nice, another little convenience function would be I want to have my router toString method made. So I can do that here. Let's just do it back in TypeScript again to show you what that looks like. So again, I want to make a public method called toString. which is going to override my toString method, right? Okay. And what this is going to do is it's going to output my array, right, as an example, as a string. Now, all I want to do is I want to return my array, this dot m underscore routing table, right? But this doesn't return the routing table. I want to make it so that it is toString. So that's what I'm doing. I'm printing out my routing table, when I do the toString method. So router.toString is going to actually override this, right? Now that's the only one that's like got lowercase t, but that's the way that toString works. I could make it capital T, toString, just to make it so that ours is different. We could do that too. Let me show you what that looks like. So if I go here to remove, I can put in, drop in toString. Oops, sorry, I dropped in the TypeScript, not the JavaScript. Not that it's a big deal, but just want to make you know how that works. Okay, so toString. So let's print that out. So I want to do a console log. Let's do a console log to make sure we got it. A console log of my router dot toString, right? I want to console log that out and see what it prints when I go to my page. Active link. Did I make a mistake? I did make a mistake. Haha. You're right. Let me make that change. Sorry. You're right. You're absolutely right. Let's find anywhere that I have active link, and I want to replace it with active link. That is important. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem. Okay, and yeah, and up here, this is also something that I gotta set up later on. All right, so yeah, router string. Again, I want to print that out, and let's go back to my home page and then see what that looks like. You can see that this is the string that I'm getting. It prints everything out, right? So that is, you can see that it's got an array of exactly all the roots that are right there. So it's a very nice little function, that toString function that allows me to, it's nice and small. And again, I don't expose my routing table directly. Okay, I don't want to do that. All right, cool. So now I know that that works, that routing table. And what I want to do is I want to be able to find, the link, right? So again, we have our active link as an example. Here's our active link, and our active link, when we do in our constructor function, right? Our active link doesn't actually, it kind of defaults to nothing. But just to make sure, what we can say is that when we create my router, I can say that this dot active link is equal to nothing. We're just initializing. All right, so we're making it so it's blank. Okay, so that's what's going to happen in the constructor. Sorry, TypeScript, I didn't do it there. I'm doing it here. Okay, just spacing this out for you guys. We don't have any private methods right now. Let's remove this just to make it cleaner. And we haven't commented any of the other ones. Let's comment them now. So what does my route do? Add route. It's adds a new route to the routing table. Okay, that's what it does. And this is going to be a string. And it's going to return returns void, because it doesn't return anything. So that's what this does, right? And we also want to do all the commenting here in our code. We're going to say something. This replaces the current routing table with a new one. And we'll say routes should begin with the slash character. Okay, just so it gives me some documentation so we know how it works, right? This is a string. It also returns void, right? We're going to say at returns void. Okay. Find route. We can say that this method finds the index of the route in the routing table. Yeah, that's what it does. Otherwise, it returns -1 if the route is not found. Okay. Again, we need the route as a string. It does return something. It returns a number, right? That's what it returns. We don't care if it's a member of route. Okay. And remove route. This method removes a route, from the routing table. Wow. Right? And we're going to say this is a string. It returns a Boolean, right? Because that's what it returns. Returns true if the route was successfully removed. Otherwise, it returns false. Okay. And again, you can make this stuff whatever you want. One more. This method displays returns the routing table as a string. And it's a comma separated string. Comma separated string. So that's what it did. Returns string. Okay, so that's all my documentation for my class, because it's important for us to do this, right? Because that'll be the way we can do it. We can add and remove routes, we can read the route, and all that kind of stuff. So we have some good functionality here, right? All right, let's put this up on GitHub. This is some good work that we've done. And we'll say, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to git add dot git git commit -m, and we'll say added router git push. So routing how it's going to work is it's going to intercept, right, the link at the top, right? It's going to intercept the link at the top. And what happens if the route is not found, right? Then what I want it to do is I want to set my active link. So we're going to use this functionality here at the top. So we're going to say something like, all right, cool, let router do this. We're making the routing table for the first. We have our router, right? And what we're going to do here, after we've added our routing table, then I want to say that check to see if the route is found that I'm on right now, right? So we're going to say something like, I want to check the routing table if it exists. So I want to find, right? So router.find, and now it's like we get a nice little thing. We want to find the index of the route that is kind of going in there right now, right? So what is the index? Well, it's going to be location.pathname. Whatever the location.pathname is, remember we said location.pathname is the way we're going to do it? If the location.pathname exists in the routing table, right, then, if it returns greater than -1, right, so if I'm not a -1, then what I want to do with it is, let's do a console log for now. That we're going to say route found, okay, just to prove it out. And then we'll do else, we'll do for now a console log that says route not found. Okay, let's see how this works first. So either we found the route or we didn't find the route, okay? And if we go back, it says route found, right, /projects. We know that projects is part of the route, right? So if I put in something else, let's say I put in gobbledygook like ABC, then that's route not found, right? We don't have the route is not found. But if I go just to this by itself, route found, because by default that is the route, that is with nothing, okay? Does this make sense to you? So the first part is, can we find the route? The next part is, after we find the route, then, what do we do, right? All right, cool. So that is something that I want to be able to do, right? And what I also want to do here, right, is once I've got this functionality down and I know that I can find the route, let's go into my app.js for a second and just get rid of this console log because we don't need to do this anymore. We know that the route is being found. I want to get rid of some extra stuff in here. Go back to my router. And what I want to do here now is do that routing. So I want to say that, okay, when the route is found, this is nice. We don't care about this anymore. Well, we want to say what if my route is equal to, and the route that I'm talking about is this route, location.pathname. So it'd be nice if we captured it somehow. So let's say something like let route, the route that we're looking at right now, equal to location.pathname, because I think it's just easier for me to type in route every single time. We're just going to make an alias for location.pathname. Alias. Okay. That's what this is. So we can say here route. I think that's just easier to say than location.pathname. Okay. So router find route. If we didn't find the route, then it's a -1. If, however, we did find the route, and if my route is equal to a slash, that means that it's going to be the main route, right? Then what I want then, is that router.activeLink, right, is going to be equal to home, right? Else, router.activeLink is going to be equal to my route, whatever the route is, substring 1, which means I'm going to strip out the slash, right? I'm going to strip out the slash. And I can write this better. I can do better than this because this is our condition. I can use a ternary operator to make this nicer. So I can do something that looks like this. I can say router.activeLink is equal to, remember, we can just turn this into a ternary statement, like so. If it's true, then it's going to be this. This is the true statement. If it's false, then I want to make it equal to this. Okay, and that will be replacing all of this text, just to make it a little nicer. So we're basically saying, hey, in my active link, set my active link to either home or whatever the substring is, right? However, if I don't find the route, then I want to do something different. I want to make it so that my route is equal to is equal to a 404, right? I want to actually make my own custom 404 page. So I'm going to say something like router.activeLink, right, is equal to a 404. And notice that it's also an if-else. So I could make this into one long big sentence. I'm not going to do that. Because I could just say something like router.activeLink is equal to one of these two things, right? I'm not going to do that. Okay, so pretty cool. I like it. And, you know, this little thing here, this 404, we don't have a 404. Let's make it. 404 means that the route that we're going to go to is 404. Let me explain how this works. Let me show you this. So let's try this first. Let's try how this works for ActiveLink. And by the way, to make this, to enable this functionality, let's go back to my app.js, and where we have this, where we say router ActiveLink is equal to home, don't do this anymore. We're just going to say whatever the router ActiveLink is. Okay, that's where I'm going to go. By the way, guys, you can see how we're going to start replacing this by what we just did. This is kind of a routing table, and we made it a lot nicer with our router. Okay, so that's all I've done here. I've gone to the display home and removed that ActiveLink is equal to home because I want it to be whatever it is, right? So let's go back, and if I go to this, cool. If I click about us, projects, services, contact, login, all that works now. No issues. And if I actually go to a number like ABC, then we're going to have an issue because we don't have a 404 page. It's looking for 404.html, right? We don't have a 404.html. Okay, not yet. But we're going to make one right now. Okay. So again, if I don't load everything, that's what the router does. If in the routing table, if I don't see one of the routes that I've listed here, it's going to look for, my active link is going to be 404, which means I need a 404 in the content area. So under the content area of my views, so views, content, I need a 404 page. Let's make that. So new file, right? 404.html. There it is. And just like we had an about us or whatever, we're just going to type in something like this. And here, we're going to say 404, right? And then page not found is what it's going to look like right now. Like this. Why is this good? We're handling any other errors that, you know, we can make custom pages that says, oops, you've gone to the wrong link, you know, or whatever. Notice that we still have our home page and all these things that come up, right? Which is good. This is our navigation. Navigation is looking good. But if I have a page that I'm trying to go to that doesn't exist, like for example, if I go to, I don't know, Tom's page, you know, it's going to say still 404 page not found. But if I type in something like, you know, that exists, right? For example, if I go to login, not login.html, but just login, then it takes me to my login page, right? And that's what I want for people to be able to bookmark the page and be able to go somewhere. So this is kind of mission accomplished when it comes to routing. Okay, questions around this? Are you guys with me for what I'm doing here? Questions around this login stuff? Are we good? Or the routing table? Nick's good. How about everyone else? Jackie, you good? Calvin, Tom, Muzda? And the reason why is because this creates our, thank you guys. What this does is it creates our structure for our page, right? Once we have this, then we have a lot of power. And I mean that in a nice way too, right? We have a custom 404 page. We can make other custom pages, anything we want here, we can inject inside of our structure. But now we have some some stuff we have to fix. So we've got this piece done. A routing table looks great. I can always add stuff to the routing table if I want to, right? And this exists in the global space, right? It exists in the global space. So, you know, this is something we should consider also later on. I may want to hide this so it doesn't, you know, always show up the way it's showing up right now, because this means that if I go to here and if I type in router, right, then it's going to show me my home link. This is the active link as an example, and that's okay. And it also shows me my routing table right away. I can go through that and type it anywhere I want. I mean, that's not terrible, but you know, maybe we don't want that. I don't know, right? I don't think it's something that's destructive, to be honest with you. And we've already encapsulated it inside of a class anyway, and it looks fantastic to me, right? Because it gives me a chance to kind of understand what a routing table looks like. Very cool. I like it. So what do we do next? Well, look, we need to make some functionality work. So we've got most of these things nicely working, but what about our contact page? Our contact page doesn't work anymore. Like I press all this stuff and, you know, it's not really computing anymore, right? Because if I click cancel doesn't do anything, send doesn't do anything, right? You know, so how do I make those pages work again? So let's have a think about this a little bit, right? So I'm using this thing called load header, and that's okay. And that's where everything is happening in my load header, right? Load header is actually allowing me to click stuff, and it takes the router, the link from the router as an example, and my routing table, and allows me to add class and remove class, which this does the whole header injection thing. I mouse over and does the pointer, so it makes me look like I'm actually have an active link. These are all good, my load header. But I'm doing my load header and my load content and load footer for my display home, but it's actually displaying everything. So display home now doesn't make any sense, right? Doesn't make any sense. But how do I add functionality? Because I really want to have this functionality here, right? My display contact stuff, you know, kind of active. Whatever my page is, right? I want to intercept it and, you know, going back to load header and all this stuff, I'm still going to load header, load footer, and display home. Display home is going to have these functions. I mean, I could put display about, display project, display services, and it's going to have all this stuff too. But it doesn't really matter, does it? Because I don't have these other pages anymore, right? I don't have an index or a contact.html page or any one of those other pages. So really, if you think about how we were routing before, I was routing based on document title. And my document title right now is home. Because by default, if I go to my index.html, my title is home. That's okay. But I don't need this anymore. I don't need that functionality. So this whole switch case thing is defunct. I don't need this anymore. Let's get rid of it. I know this is drastic, but we got to think about what this looks like because, and I'm going to leave this in here. So when I say get rid of it, I mean like comment it out for now. Okay, please just comment it out. So again, I'm going to go to edit and it's going to toggle block comment, which is going to just turn this on. And now we have no way of getting to my display home anymore, but that might be a good thing, right? Because remember, we have a router, right? And I want to be able to route to the particular page that I want to go to. But I still want to have the functionality that I had before, right? For example, I had this other functionality here, all this other functionality, but I only want this display contact list to be for the display contact list. So I want to be able to, instead of displaying a page like home, I want to display a page with a page name, whatever the page name is, and some kind of callback function. Okay? So let's see if we can formulate this in our heads, what this looks like, okay? By scrolling all the way down here. So when I go here, I want to say that depending on the active link, because the active link is going to be something I'm not controlling anymore. My router by the time I get to my start page, my start function, my active link is there. I know what link I'm on and what I need to do. I know all the stuff, right? Because I know what my active link is. So, and I know if it's part of I know also that it's part of my routing table. I know that as well. My routing table is good, right? So then how do I use that active link? That active link is not just going to be about one thing. It's also going to be like this: home, about, project, services, and so on, right? So I want to be able to use it so that I display anything I want, right? I have my callback function that triggers when after my my link works. So this idea that we had here in my header, right, which is, I'm just going to put us all the way up here again. In my header, this is incomplete. I load my header and I have my content, and what I do is I load content here. My load content is okay, but I don't just want to load content anymore, right? I don't want to just load content anymore. What I want to do is I want to load content, and I also want to have my callback function that I can also call at the same time. For example, a special callback, a special function that I'm going to activate when I'm on a specific page. Okay. So then let's change my load content page to do this. I'm going to have my load content, which is going to inject the stuff that I want. And my load content is also going to have a callback function. All right. And you can call it a callback function. You can also call it a page specific function or a call behind a page, a code behind page, or whatever it's going to be. But my callback, this thing here, is actually going to be a function. Now, it's not going to be a parameter like a string. So I'm going to say at param, and my it's going to be a function, right? Which is going to be my callback. So my callback is actually going to be a function, right? That's what I need it to be. Okay. So then I want to be able to call that callback function, right? So I make the page. As an example, I load it, I load my content, inject it into the page, and at the bottom, I call my callback function, callback. Remember, I'm passing it as a reference, right? That's what I want to do. So then, let's check this out. Instead of my display home doing all this, let's take all this stuff and put it down in my start function here. So I'm going to load header. I'm going to load footer. I'm going to load the active page. And in my header, when I load the contents of my page, I'm also going to load the callback function related to it, right? So how do I activate the callback function based on the active link, right? So think about what that looks like. How do I call a function, from a string? That's what I want to do. I want to basically say that, and I could make a switch case for this. I could still use the switch case, depending on, instead of switching with the document title, I can switch with active link. So we could make it this big thing here. And let me just undo this part, toggle block comment. So nice, right? And I can do this title. I'm just showing you this. I can say, instead of document title, let's do on router active link, right? And instead of home, right, active link is actually the, now, remember what it does. Active link is, home, about, all those kind of things, right? That's what it does, right? Because back in the router, if I go back to the routing case right here, remember how we get active link? Active link is a substring. It doesn't include the slash. It's either home or about or whatever, or 404, whatever it's going to be, right? Again, I'm just explaining this to you. So this could be home, right? And about, and projects and services. I'm just pointing this out just because you might have thought of this, but there's going to be a problem with this, right? Remember Ajax. Keep in mind Ajax. Asynchronous, right? So I could do this, but this thing that I'm doing, router to active link, and then I'm assigning a callback function, right? I'm going to assign the callback function based on the active link. And I can't just do that once. That's going to be done here, by the way, right? Because I need to load content and then do this, and then load the footer, right? I also need to do that in my load content function, which is up here, right? Because remember, I click on the link and the link is going to change my active link. And when my active link changes, I'm going to then load my content again. My load content is going to be something that I'm going to call many times, right? And I need to call the callback function here based on the active link, right? Callback. The way I've written it. So there's a couple of options, there's a few options here. I can rewrite this, make it different or whatever. Or I can make another function that returns the callback based on the active link. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do that way down here near this because we already have this stuff here, switch, right? And I'm going to return whatever the link is for each of these things. I want to return a reference to all these things. So before start, let's make a nice function name. So we're going to say, I want to get the function from the active link, whatever active link, we'll call it active link function, right? Or, and maybe some suggestions from you guys would be good too, right? That's what I want. I want the callback from the active link, right? So we'll just say, callback. We'll call it callback. Active link callback, and then pass in. Sure, I can do that too. I like that too. Active link callback. Sure, no problem. I'll call that. And then it takes in the active link, which is of type string. We know that. It takes something, and it's going to return the thing. I mean, I could put active link with a capital L. It doesn't matter because active link and core active link, router.active link are different. And what I can do is I can take the switch case, cut it out of here, right? So we don't need it anymore. And we can put it in here. All right, this is the easier way to do it. And depending on whatever the active link is, active link, we switch it on active link. And then what we want to do is instead of display home and break, we don't need any of these break statements because what we're going to do is we're going to just return on case. Okay. So case, it's whatever it's going to be. We're going to return that active link. So we're going to return, and there's no fall through because once I return, it's just going to be gone, right? Return, and instead of display home like this, instead of calling it, we're going to return it like this without the brackets. This is going to return a reference to the function. Okay. So we can actually code it in one like this because we're not going to have breaks. So I can do the same thing here. So I'm going to return, just to make it shorter, guys, return display about, and the same with the other ones. So let's just return here. And please, if you don't understand what I'm doing, please pipe up, because otherwise I won't be able to specify what's happening for you guys. I won't be able to understand that you don't understand. Now, this is one way we could do it. We can think of other creative ways as well, because what we're doing is we're converting, really what we're doing is we're converting this thing to this thing. Okay, that's what we're doing. And the structure is the same: display, and then the home, display about, display project, display services, display contact. So that also gives us a hint of maybe there's some other way of doing it other than this, other than a switch case, where we can avoid a whole function later on. But remember what we always say: make it work, then refactor. So right now I'm just making it work so we can get on with our lives, as opposed to refactoring at once, because that's going to take some time. And I'm running out of time, and I want to make sure that I get everything in here that I need you guys to see. So why not the brackets? Because the brackets, remember, are calling the function. I don't want to call the function here. I just want to return a reference to the function, right? Just like we do in C#, C++, or C#. I want to return a reference to the function. I don't want to return, the function. I don't want to actually call the function itself. All right, so load content. I have a reference to the function, and what I can do is I can call it right here. I can say active link callback router dot active link. Okay. And then our function becomes a little simpler. Yeah. Active link callback router dot active link. Okay. And I have to maintain this structure inside of my load header. So if I go to definition for my load header, then I'm going to say active link load content router active link. And then I'll say, again, active link callback router dot active link. And what this is going to do is the load content area is going to have this active link, right, which is a function, right? So if I go here to my callback function, whatever that callback function I pass in there, I'm going to call it. Okay, I'm actually calling that function. So whatever the name of the function is, we don't know what the name of the function is, but when I pass it in, that callback function is going to be called immediately. All right, let's see if this works, fails, whatever. Failed. So it says callback is not a function. All right, callback is not a function on line 61, right? Well, we want to make it a function, yeah? So how do we do that? How do we make it so that our callback is a function, right? That's what I want. I want this structure as an example. Can anyone think about a way of making this work? Do you guys have some ideas for this? Because I think the big thing is we want to make sure that we have everything intact with our callback function, right? Anyone have any thoughts? Because really what the callback function is, right, if you think about it in clear terms, right? It's the ability for us to call a function that hasn't been named, an unnamed function, right? An anonymous function, right? That's what we're doing here, right? When we're calling a function. So how do we do that? Any guys have any idea? Because I'm also thinking about how to do it myself, because it should work, right? If I pass in a function to the callback and I just call it, then it should be working. What's your error? Favicon. That's not really an error. That's just your link happening the way it does, right? So don't worry about that. So again, just go through it for a second. Think for yourself. So, you know, man, remember JavaScript. JavaScript is object-oriented, right? Am I? Okay, that's a problem. Router.active link, that is definitely an issue, because that's not going to be a callback function that exists. And how about down in here? That is a good catch, right? Same thing right here, and that not giving us any kind of message. And let's go back and see if we're getting a console error now. So about us, projects, services, and contact. Okay, cool. Well, let's log in. Can we log in? Let's try this out. So admin, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then click login, and then let's see what happens. Uh-oh. Login doesn't work. How about cancel? None of this functionality works, right, with the login page. So that is an issue. I mean, it produces the page, right, as an example, right? Services, projects, and so on. And what about if I put in contact list? Can I get there? Is it blocked? Contact that list? That doesn't work. But what about if I said contact list? Does it go there? And it shows me my contact list, but it also says callback is not a function, right, in page on callback. So it means that I'm trying to get to something, contact list, that doesn't exist, right? Which means I missed something. Okay, I missed something. That's a good catch, Nick. That is the way, right? Active link. Contact list, display contact lists. I have all these things, right? So that's what these things do. They return one, home, about, project, services, contact, edit, login, register. That's what these do. And they call that function, right? They call that function upon going there. So I pass in a link and I go there, and then, you know, that's something that has to be done. So let's take a look at some of those pages now for the functionality. One thing is, let's actually look at our content pages. So if I go to my content page now for, views, and if I look at my contact page for my contact.html page, here's my contact.html page. Remember that we need to be careful about how this works. So type submit, send. This is okay, right? This is not going to, you know, kind of error out at all. What about other pages, like my edit page? My edit page is going to say, hey, edit, my edit button. I want to, my class is edit, my cancel button is here, right? These things aren't going to actually do anything because there's no href. Remember, any href in our code, bad. We don't want any href in our code. All right, same thing with login, right? This is a problem, right? href HTML, we don't want this, right? How are we going to make a link work now in our page? When I click on a link, I want to go to the page. How do I do that, right? Well, what if I was to put in, you know, again, I want to do location here as well. So can I put in /register? Let's try this. So if I put in /register, will that work as an href? Because hrefs are going to fail, right? Because there is no more pages, right? So let's go back. And if I go to login and I click the register link, then it's going to take me to register. Cool. Look at that. That totally worked, right? So that's how I do it. Same thing with my sign-in page. It's going to go to login.html. We got to return, kind of rejig this. So I can't say login.html anymore. Any HTML references have to be changed to this, right? Any HTML references have to be changed. Okay. By the way, we could also change our navigation to this if I really want to, specifically to this now. Okay, as opposed to it being found and all that kind of stuff. I can just switch it to this because we have a router, right? So that enables us to do different things. All right, so what else? I know I'm timing out here, guys. Bear with me. So, so that is an area. Projects and services we didn't do anything with. Home we didn't do anything with. Edit we did stuff with, but it's in the code, right? So that is, and contact list.html, we did this, but it's in the code. So, and about page doesn't do anything. We don't have a display. We don't have a display 404. That is going to catch us as well, because we need to have something to do with that too. Because now it doesn't display the page. It also needs to do some kind of callback. So we should at least have a 404 page, because that's been our contact now. So that's something that's missing. That's going to cause an error. Let's put that down here as well. So inside here, we're going to have a 404. Let's put that somewhere at the bottom. Case 404, right? And we want to return display 404 page. Actually, we'll say display 404, which doesn't exist, which I'll just make right here for now. And it's not going to do much. All right, so that is our callbacks, but then how come it's not working? Well, let's go back and see what's actually happening. So let's try this. Let's try the first one. So load my header, yay. Now I'm going to load my contact. My active link is in the router in my content. And then I'm going to active link callback is this active link. Whatever I pass into the active link is going to make one of these things, return a reference to one of these things. Okay, so let's go back to my load content and see this happening. Go to definition. Load content is going to inject my content, right, as an example, and then call my callback function. Okay, call my callback function. So let's do that for display name. So I'll say something like console log, and we'll say homepage. Homepage function called, so that we know that it's working. Okay, so we know that this is going to work. All right, and let's see that is working. So if I go to my home page, right, then we should see the home page function is called, right? So we know that's working. But then why then does my login not work, right, with my login link, right? And my cancel button doesn't work, and none of it works. Right? I'm not even getting an error in my login anymore. If I type in like admin and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and press login, I got nothing. Why? Well, remember, asynchronous. So what's happening is I'm loading the header, right? I switch my active link, and then I load my new content as an example right here, right? And my load content is happening inside of my stuff. So I'm loading my content and then calling my callback function as soon as I'm done loading my content. Okay. But by loading my content happens, my callback function happens outside of this. And I'm sorry to tell you, but this has to be inside of this. That's the problem. Because if I call this outside here, we cannot confirm when this content is going to be loaded by Ajax. Okay, we cannot confirm ever. So let's go back and try it again. Save, go back and go here, close, and now let's try it. So admin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, click login, and All right. Cool. It tried to log in, right? Awesome. That's fantastic. I love that error. But why we have that problem? Well, we have this problem because now we have areas in our code that actually redirects us as well. So let's go and fix that. So blah, blah, blah. We're going to search through to some of these areas here. Here's our display contact list. That's nice, nice, nice. And our inner HTML and display edits. And when we go down to the edit buttons, the href has to be changed. It can't be this anymore. It's got to be this contact list, right? And we can't do this anymore. It's got to be this. If we're going to go with our theme, right? This is important. No more HTML. We want to get rid of anything that has to do with HTML. So we could do a search for all the HTML stuff and do that. But this is kind of an important thing to go through. I'm just going to go through one at a time and make sure that there's no more HTML that I can find. Href index.html. Look at that, index.html. And it won't be index anymore. There is no more index. It's got to be home, right? So that's also something that's going to change. Same thing with this, login. All right, and I think I got a lot of them, but who knows, maybe there's more. So I'm just going to skip all the way to the top here and search for these. Look at it, views, components, header. This is where I'm loading. You got to be careful not to replace it automatically because it'll replace these things. These are actually valid, right? So let's do a HTML, anything with HTML in it. I've got 14 places where I do that. So that's HTML, HTML, HTML. Footer.html is correct, right? Edit.html is not correct. And neither is contact list.html. And neither is this one. Okay. And let's continue. Edit button.html. Okay. So this is okay. We're swapping out the HTML of the button. That's what that means. We care nothing about that, and we don't care about that, and we don't care about this, but we do care about this. This is not something that can be there. We have to put a slash in there, and then one of these, like this, oops, right? Because we're reformatting the nav link item for contact list. ID is equal to contact list, and then insert before a login. This is going to be an interesting thing that we did because we messed up. Remember, we changed login, and we modified our login to this. This is a problem for toggle login. Toggle login needs to be rewritten. Remember? Because we have in our login, this is one thing we need to rewrite, because remember right now what's happening is in our login.html, we've moved our, in our header.html on the bottom, we've moved login from the link, the list item, to down here. And what I want to do is I want to make another ID up here, keep login. We'll make another ID up here to say login, we'll call it login list item. Login list item. I know this is long, but it'll differentiate it between the two. And I just want to do it really quickly because I want to replace the code that's in here. So instead of login, I want to replace the login list item, right? Because it'll replace the anchor tag with a logout. Okay, that's what it'll do. And we got to toggle this on and off because that is going to be an issue, right? So when I toggle list item, when I'm logged in, then I'm going to do this. But what if I'm not logged in? I also got to put it back because remember, I'm not reloading the page, guys. I'm not reloading the page. This is a key learning, right? Because I'm switching out stuff. So this is something that I need to do, right? Log out, click, I'm going to do the logout click again, like we did before, and we're going to go to login if we're not there, and then the contact list link, that's going to be the anchor tag. That is okay. I'm fine with that. And it's going to be before the login list item. That's where it's going to insert before this whole list item, right? But what if my session is not this? I also got to incorporate this now, right? So when I'm not logged in, what happens? That's also a thing. I can't, what if there's no user, right? Then if there's no user and I've already toggled this on, I've already logged in, then I got to replace the content that's already there, right? Login list item then has to swap back. I'm sorry to say that, right? But it has to swap back with the login again. And we're going to get that information from our header, right? Because we already have that header information right here. And let's go back to our app. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because we don't have this anymore. We don't have this, right? So we can't, we have to put it back like this. And this can't be href. There's no href for our login. That href has to be gone. Okay, log in, log out. So that should put it back. One thing we noticed is that when I erase a link, I already had the click on it because I included it before. It shouldn't disappear. But we don't know. And what happens when I have to remove this, right? Because when I'm not logged in, my page has to be, there's a couple of things we can do, right? Like a couple of other things we can do is I can reload my header. That's also something I can do. So else, you know, basically I want to reload my header again, right? I want to swap out my header, but that's a challenge, guys. Like that's like a real challenge, redoing my entire header. So let's look at how this works and how much we're going to get some glitches. So again, I'm going to go back. There is no contact list.html. What if I go to contact list? It should redirect us if I'm not logged in. Let's go to login and log in properly. So admin and log in. Cool. I like that it did that, but it didn't swap out my log out. And it says, let's figure this out. Callback is not a function, right? So that means we're passing in something that is not a function. We're trying to get to something that doesn't exist. That's what we're doing. Okay. So where is that? Well, remember that in my contact list.html, so display contact list, this is what's happening. It says local storage length is greater than 0, then, you know, blah, blah, blah. But if it's not greater than 0, then what do we want to do? Follow that green thing, it goes here. So that is what happens when it's the contact list is not greater than 0. So how do we fix this problem, right? I want to do a couple things to help us, right? Because just so that way we can get some output to help us doing this. And I'm going to do that right down here. So where it says I want to do a return type, whatever the active link is, it's going to do one of these, right? But we're hitting something that is not currently displaying whatever the return type is, right? So a couple things to note is I want to just put some, you know, kind of, we can type through, we can go through it and watch it, but something's happening when I go to my contact list, right? As an example. So I log in, right? I go to my contact list and then further down, I do a toggle login. Let's go to this definition again, toggle login. So it says, session storage get item user, right? And then I'm going to look at this, log out click, and then slash login. So let's see if we actually get here. I'm just going to do a console log. Toggled login. just to see if we get here. We'll start tracing the problem. Right, here it is. Look at that toggled login. I want to log out, and the way I'm going to do that is manually for now because I don't have a logout link somehow, right? So I'm going to go to my application. I'm going to go to session storage and see if there's a user, which there is, and we're just going to delete that user. So delete, okay, and then refresh. Okay, so that shouldn't even be allowing us to get here, but that's okay because we're going to fix that later. So I want to do my login again and then try it out. So admin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, click login, and then we go to login and we go to this. We get to this page right here. No error, right? But we get an error here. It says we toggled my login, but I'm getting an error that says it's not a function, right? And if I log out, let's do the same thing. Let's go back to our application and go to user and delete. Guys, I'm timing out, right? And refresh. Then my console says, I've toggled my login, but on app.js 60, right, I'm calling a callback function that doesn't exist. I'm calling a callback function that doesn't exist because it's calling a function and it doesn't know the name of the function, whatever that is, right? It's going somewhere, it's getting called somewhere, it's returning something that doesn't exist, right? So let's go into the switch case. Remember, the switch case fails. Switch case just failed. That's what happened. So that's down here. One of these cases returns something that didn't exist because active callback needs to return something. So I'm going to make a default case. And the default case is going to, we're going to do a console log. Because it should never get to the default case, right? Which is, we're going to say error. Damn. Error. And then callback does not exist. We're going to make it a console error, which is going to stop our operation right here. And we're also going to say whatever the active link is, plus the active link. Where am I trying to go? I want to know what that is. And this will give us the information that we want here in our default. All right, let's go back and let's look at a console. And it says, error, callback does not exist for contact list, contact-list. It's trying to get to a contact list, right? And contact-list does not exist. Contact-list with a capital L. Hello. Look at that. So dumb, right? Contact-list, right, as with a capital L, and that was a spelling error, and that's what caused my contact list not to work. All right, cool. So that works. Look at that. I can load my contact list now from that silly error, but it doesn't swap out my login link. Doesn't swap this out, right? So load login, toggle login doesn't work. Can anyone offer me a reason why? Can anyone offer me a reason why toggle login does not work at this step? Before you guys go, because I know you guys are timing out as well. Come on, guys, tell me. You missed a step along the way. I'll publish this soon. So let me put this up on GitHub the way it is. We just made it so that we created a active callback. We added the active callback. So let's just do that. So say we did a lot of changes. Git add dot, git commit -m, added active link callback function. We're going to eventually get rid of it too, but there it is. So you have everything that I have. But can you tell me why this is the way it is? Well, because remember, it comes down to that toggle login is going to happen whenever it feels like it. Right? Remember, I may not even have a header loaded yet when I'm trying to toggle the login. Right? I can't do that here anymore. It's got to be done after the header loads and after I've loaded my content. Make sense? So this can't go here anymore because it's asynchronous. It's going to happen whenever it feels like it, whenever the server decides that that's going to happen. So let's go back to load content. Go to definition, right? When I load my content and call my callback function is going to be calling my my login page, right? My login page is going to load, and I want to toggle my login when I'm logged in and logged out, right? That's what I want to do every single time, right? So let's take a look at that, the login page, right? So again, if I scroll down and I go to that login page, let's get a hint of how this can work. So display edit, and we're going to display login. Here we go. Display login. So login page, blah, blah, blah. If I'm successful, then I want to toggle my login, my logout page, right? So let's call it here. So instead of moving, before I move to my contact list, right, which is going to do this, that's going to move me, I want to toggle login. Let's do it here. Because this makes sense to be done here because I already have a login page and I can log in, log out. Okay. But remember, we need to log out here. So let's log out. I'm just going to do that by erasing my thing again, application. And I'm going to go here and refresh. And it's not stopping me from going here anymore, right? So I'm going to go back to login and try it again. So admin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Log in. And we got our user, but again, this didn't swap out. Login didn't change to log out. We need to make this change, right? So this has to actually change to a logout link, right? Not the login link, the logout link. Okay, so toggle logins. Let's think about this. So on success, so in order for me to do this, it's successful. And before I move here, I'm going to try and do this. Go to definition. Again, back to toggle login. So it's going to say toggled login if session storage get item user, if that's true, then it's going to look for login list item with HTML. Did I save that? It's important that I save everything, by the way, because something, example, in our header was not saved. I know this is dumb, but we didn't save it. Let's do it again. Login. Woo! It did it for a second, and then it went back. It did it for a second, and then it went back. Okay? So that's messed up, right? Because I wanted it to be done, but it didn't work because when I toggled my login here, right? Toggled login. I called my toggle login page. When I go back to my contact list, as an example, I'm moving to my contact list, and then I want to toggle my login to my logout. Okay, so maybe not here, because whenever I do a slash anything, location href, and I change it, I want to toggle login then, right? Whenever I'm going. So maybe it's not here that has to be done. You see the difficulties we're running into, but in my contact list, display contact list. So up here. So if my local storage is greater than 0, then we're going to do that here. Toggle login, right? Because we can actually reduce some of this code in a second. But now we're not going to do that. Okay, so cool. There's my logout page. All right. But my logout link is not working the way it's supposed to work because it doesn't have the same functionality. We're almost there, right? If I go to my, remember that when I did my header way up here, right? I also did this on mouse over. I need to do this for the new thing that I made. So I need to take this and go to my toggle login. And when I create my new item, my new login item, right? So I created it, and I look at a click handler for the logout function. I also need to make for the logout function, I need to make a mouse over that changes my pointer to a hand. Okay, so I log in. We're getting there. Log in. We come to the contact list. And if I click on it, now it looks like a logout link. I click on logout. I'm good. But what if I went there directly? Is there anything to stop me? Contact lists. Well, contact list.html is never going to work. But what if I went contact list? I can still get there whether I'm logged in or not, right? So how do I stop that? Well, we had that little piece of code in there before, right? The little piece of code that we had in there, remember, was this auth guard. And what auth guard does is it says, okay, if I'm not logged in and I'm trying to get to a link that I'm not supposed to get to, right? I want to be able to redirect myself back to this, right? So I want to use auth guard not as a separate JavaScript file, but actually a function. So let's do this as a function. So we're going to lift this part out here, right? Cut it. And I want to get rid of this auth guard now. We don't need it anymore because we're not going to use it that way. And I want to make an auth guard function, just like we did just like toggle login, right? I want to make an auth guard function. So we'll make it down here. Function auth guard. Maybe you can space function properly. How about that? And we can put that stuff in there. And instead of doing this, we can't use HTML, but we can do this, which is going to take us back to where we were before. So if the item is not logged in, then go back. Now you're going to say, we've done this a couple of times here. We've checked, I'm toggling login, as an example. Yes, I have. But remember, we're making it work right now. We really don't care about, as an example, if it's perfect. So toggle login, and then, but before we get there, before we do any of this, we want to do an auth guard here. So we'll say auth guard, right? We want to make sure that don't allow visitors to go here, right? Unless they're logged in. But if I do it here, it's going to flash and it's going to go away, which is not what we want. So it's going to look like this. I'm not logged in, right? And if I go back to that page, right? So if I go to contact list, I'm going to see it. I'm going to see, well, contact list HTML never. But if I go to contact list, it's going to just, for a second, split second, right? I'm going to see this. See that link? See how it appeared? We don't want this. So this is not where it's supposed to go. Auth guard. Instead, what we want to say is, if it's guarded at all or not, right? So in our router, and when we do our routing, which is inside of my way up at the top here, right? In my load header, when I go to the active callback link, I have three things: my load my content, I have my active link, I have my active callback, and I should have an optional object, right? I should have an optional object that says that if I'm guarding my my site or not. Is it protected or not? That's what my load content should be, right? So we're going to say we don't know if it's protected or not. It really depends on what link we're getting. And right now, we're not getting an active link, right? That has an auth guard on it, right? So what I could do is, what I'm saying is, inside of my load content where I have page name callback, I could have another little parameter that says, is this page protected or not? Is the page protected? If the page is protected, then check for login before I even do any kind of injection. Check to see if I'm logged in, right? And there's a couple ways to get this done, right? I could specify a link. I can extend my router, right? So in my router functionality, which is in my router.js, I could extend my router class, right? And I'm not going to do that today, but I can extend my router class to include things like protected links or not, right? So for example, in what I have in my router class is just an array of, which is a routing table array. But instead of making it a routing table array, I can create a new class called links or routes, or the routes class, not the routing table, but a routes class. And the routes class, instead of me having an array of strings, it'll be an array of objects. And the array of objects will be the name of the route as the route itself, and if it's protected or not as an option, right? So it'll be done right at the router level. So when I create my routes, this routing table won't look like this anymore. It'll be an array of objects where I can specify if it's protected or not. And if it's protected, then it will look when I go to the link, and it'll check to see if the thing is protected, and if it is, it'll redirect. For now, we're not going to do that because it's going to be outside of our scope for today. Maybe next week we'll fix it. But what I want to do instead is I want to go and make sure we have that protection inside of our app.js, and we'll end for today. So that's where it's got to go for now, right? And only for now is inside here. This is the place it has to go, right? Because we can't put it anywhere else right now that makes sense. Auth guard can't go at the top. Because remember, my page isn't loading anymore. It's not, there's no load. So for a second, you're going to see that, you know, the content, whether you're logged in or not, right? And then it's going to go back. But this is not the final solution. It's going to be a middle step. Okay, one more thing to check before we go is the contact list itself. How about the contact list? Does that still work? Let's get rid of these things. And what about if my login is wrong? Does that work? So if I say admin 12 and press login, does that functionality still work? Yes, it does. It still checks. Everything is good there. How about my contact us page? So contact us, I want to subscribe to the contact list. So let's say I want to add Tom Smith and 416-555-5557. Email address is tom.smith@example.com. And my message, hello, right? And then I want to subscribe to list and click send. Oh man, I don't know what happened. Did I subscribe to the list? Did it work? We have no clue. Let's log in and find out. And then here's Tom Smith, right? We just had that in. Let's edit Tom Smith. Okay, my phone number is wrong. It's 416-556-5556. Edit, right? 556-5557, no problem. I want to delete Tom Smith now. And we're good to go. All the functionality is there. The only thing that's missing, my friends, is that one piece for auth guard, which prevents my page from being seen. Okay, that's the only piece that's not there. All right, for the in-class exercise, I want you guys to make it just like this, our structure. And by the way, this structure is going to be used, and you're going to see in the next video I make for our lab 3. I'm going to use this exact structure for lab 3, and you're going to make your own page that you're going to add into your single page application for this to work. Okay, that's going to be what your lab 3 is about, and I'm going to give you all the details for that shortly. For now, let's put this up on GitHub, and this will be the end. So I'll say git add dot git commit -m. We'll say first draft, or second draft, actually. Second draft of single page application. Okay. And that should push everything up. Guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for all the waiting and everything you did, but hopefully this is interesting to you, and it provides a new system for us to be able to go from one page to the other, but it's really using only one page, not two, not 10, just one little, like one page, index.html, and the rest is thing. There's still some issues. One thing also to note is this other issue where someone comes in and puts in some other page, like for example, abc.html, whatever that is, and you get this, cannot get. That's nothing I can change right now. You can't intercept this. This is the server side stuff where we cannot get, right? When we focus on the Node.js side of the house, when we're in there, we'll be able to intercept things from the server side, and it'll take care of a lot of problems that we've had on the client side. But guys, really, this is the beginning of a great little application framework that we've created, and it's going to be something that's going to work nicely for you. All right. Otherwise, that's it. Any questions before we go for the day? Yeah, it's already been pushed. You should see it up on GitHub now. All right, guys, thank you so much. Good luck. And remember that assignments or lab 2 is pushed to Sunday. Jackie says, what screenshots? Well, I think that's the thing, Jackie. I think in this case, it'll be more, screenshots because it's going to look the exact same, right? Nothing is going to be different here. That's something that is something we're going to have to swap around. I think what we need to do is, this will look the exact same. Nothing here will look different, right? I think what you need to do is take screenshots of a couple places. Maybe what I'd like you to do is take a screenshot of your router, because I think that's something that we worked out. Because the router is the main piece. The router is the clinch pin in this entire thing, right? Because without it, also maybe a screenshot of your code structure, because your code structure should just look like this. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much then. Take care and good luck. And I'll see you guys next week.